tonight?
Yeah, New York City.
Oh, I should have known. Thank you, Jack. Most particular station in the world.
This hung in the automats in New York. So you would walk in there and order baked beans and be able to see my picture hanging there prominently displayed.
The first place I saw that poster was hanging in my big brother's room in the house I grew up in the suburbs of New York City in the late 1970s. I didn't know then that my dad's picture had been up in the automat for millions of people to look at.
Killed business by about 30%, I understand.
I didn't know that 700,000 families tuned in every week to watch him on TV. By the time my brothers and I came along, that phase of my dad's life was long over. But when I was 12, my grandma died, my dad's mom, who we called Nana. And I saw for the first time her scrapbooks with pictures of my dad as a kid performing in shows for the USO.
Yeah, I stood on a box and sang.
In films, on stage, and on radio and TV. And I finally learned how big a part of my dad's life performing had been. But it wasn't till almost 30 years later that I finally got around to asking him how he started, why he gave it up, and what it was like being one of the stars of tomorrow on the Horn and Hardart Children's Hour. Start at the beginning. How old were you when you first started performing?
According to the records, and I don't have an exact recollection of this, 2.5.
How old are you? 2.5. And your name is? Kenneth Westerman.
Still in diapers.
Probably.
And where do you live, Kenny?
In good old Brooklyn.
Good old Brooklyn!
I started on a program called Hearns, which was the name of a department store. And they sponsored it, and that was the first show I did.
Do you know anything about the Dodgers over there?
Yeah.
What do they do?
I don't know.
They play ball, don't they?
Yeah.
Sure, they play good baseball too, don't they?
Whose idea was that?
Obviously not mine. I have a faint recollection of my mother in the background yelling, "Sing out, baby Ken." She was like a closet show business mother. She wasn't bad. She did not say "Sing out, baby Ken," but there was something she enjoyed. And at 2.5, I'm looking forward to my next meal.
That was Kenny Westerman, just 2 years and 10 months old.
And then I think when I was 3, I started on the Children's Hour. And this is the actual certificate to show I started in 1942.
Wow.
By now, you should have applied for and received your ration coupons for next winter's heating needs, and you can order your oil now. Well, our boys are scattered from Alaska to Australia, on the invasion coast and on the high seas. Wherever they are, they're Yankee Doodle boys.
And that lasted for 14 years.
I'm a Yankee Doodle dandy. Yankee Doodle do or die.
Every week, 52 broadcasts a year, and a little time off for good behavior sometimes. We were just local. We started on EAF, was the radio station, and went to NBT. And then there was a parallel show in Philadelphia, which is where the Children's Hour started, because that's where Horn and Hardart, its sponsor, were located.
And there was Robert Smith, our singing newsboy, 13 years old. He sang the charming Easter Parade, and then we all joined in, the entire audience here in our auditorium, sang, "Let's have another cup of coffee."
40 years before they introduced my dad to the airwaves, Horn and Hardart introduced fast food to America. In 1902, Joseph Horn and Frank Hardart opened an unusual restaurant in Philadelphia, a restaurant with no waiters, no cashiers, no serving staff. Instead, you'd walk up to a wall of food machines, put in a nickel, open a little door, and take out a sandwich or a piece of pie, a bowl of soup, whatever you wanted. It was a revolutionary idea for its time, a restaurant where you could build your own fresh, hot meal with just the foods you liked. Anyone, rich or poor, could eat there, and just about everyone did. By the time Horn and Hardart expanded to New York in 1912, the automat was a sensation. But what people loved most about the Automat was the coffee. Horn and Hardart introduced the first drip brewed coffee ever served on the East Coast, and people couldn't get enough of it. In their heyday, Automats served 90 million cups of coffee a year. Horn and Hardart's coffee was so popular, Irving Berlin wrote a song about it.
So let's have another cup of coffee, and let's have another piece of pie.
And that song became the theme music of a little radio show Horn and Hardart started in Philadelphia in 1927, The Children's Hour.
The one in charge was a woman by the name of Alice Clements, and she was out of Philadelphia, and she directed the show and produced the show, and the sponsor was Horn and Hardart, and she worked for the television wing and radio wing, which was a relatively new thing at the time.
Alice Clements started as an employee of Horn and Hardart's advertising agency, which was run by her husband, Ike. She produced and directed The Children's Hour for 30 years, commuting between New York and her home near Philadelphia. When Ike died in 1950, she also found time to run the agency.
This was still on the radio, that's Alice, and it shows you what crazy memories are. I know this guy's name. His name is George Peters, and he was just the engineer. Our announcer was Ed Hurley, and that was a big deal. I mean, he was a big documentary and film.
Saturday, I would get to NBC at about noon, and we would rehearse the individual performers through the afternoon.
Where did they do that? Was that at 30 Rock?
That was at 30 Rock. We started on the third floor, and we worked our way up to 6A and 6B, which were the next to the largest studios there, and that was where Johnny Carson broadcast.
And this was our resident pianist, Morty Howard, who knew one introduction to every song that everybody sang on the show. Da 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 da. Standard intro.
While we haven't been able to locate any videos of the old Children's Hour, my dad did have a bunch of records of some of his old radio performances, which my brother had made into CDs a few years ago. And sure enough, Morty Howard's piano intro is all over them.
You could be singing Ave Maria, it was da 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 da. Then they thought I needed some rhythm. So they booked me in a local dance school, Billy Davis's dance school. I sat right in front. And what they did was they bronzed my tap shoes with my feet still in them.
8 o'clock Sunday morning was dress rehearsal, a full dress rehearsal. Then we had a break, and 10:30 to 11:30 the show went live. It was a variety show. It had a theme. Every week was a different theme, and the songs that we sang were relative to whatever the theme was, if it was Halloween, if it was whatever they decided in their crazed and wild imagination.
An old friend of yours just came in the door. That's Bobby Hookie folks back there in the corner. Hiya, Bob. That was our best little German, Kenny Beck.
Now you were paired up with another kid, right, Bobby Hookie?
I was paired off with Bobby Hookie. That took place, I guess, when I was probably 10 years old or something, and we were a comedy act. We bantered back and forth, whatever the script was. Sometimes we did the Who's on First. I mean, sometimes they took a real script and we did that.
I don't know what happened to him.
Who is he?
I remember his name too. His name is Bruce Marshall. And I think he got lost in the shot somewhere.
Right.
There was a choreographer there who would help you with your steps and your stage movement and things like that, which we did Saturday afternoon. Sometimes we didn't quite finish, so we kind of faked it on Sunday, which confused the cameraman a lot. And this is live television, and they have 3 cameras, and they're trying to figure out what you're going to do next.
So you changed the choreography on purpose, or? We
would do that, or sometimes they thought we would move left and we moved right, or we'd get down on our knees and do something, and they sometimes were not happy with us, but it's the only way it was fun.
I did have some terrible reviews. One I was reading said that I was precocious enough to be frightening.
Let's sing a song about Susie. That's
There were a bunch of like name performers that got their start in the children's hour.
Oh, there were a lot of them. Bernadette Peters and Robert Klein, the Nicholas Brothers, which were a great tap dancing team. It's a very long list of people.
Yeah, all the kinescopes were lost, right? All of the...
Nobody knows where they are. Nobody's been able to find them. I imagine Alice Clements must have had them at one time, and she lived in outside of Philadelphia, but nobody ever came up with them, ever. I check YouTube every year or so to see if anybody found them, but we just don't know.
Little Kenny Best, only 4 years old. Our little 5-year-old gremlin, Kenny Best. 6-year-old Kenny Best.
I guess Kenny Best was Nana's idea.
I guess so. I guess it wasn't mine.
No sit under the apple tree. Was anyone else but me?
I would get a script and a song on Saturday for the following week, and my mother would pick out on the piano the notes of the song, and that's how I learned the song. Well, she played by ear, and then I had a good ear, and I just picked up on it.
That piano, by the way, is the same one my brothers and I learned to play on when we were kids. It now lives in my house. I actually didn't know that about Nana, that she actually was able to pick out stuff by ear.
She played by ear, and my father played by ear, and I wound up playing by ear, obviously.
My mother saved all this stuff, and you guys are going to put it in an attic somewhere. This was my mother's idea, the spit curl. And if you like the idea of your mother spitting on your hair. Not that my mother wanted me to remain young or anything, but I wore short pants till I was 12. And white shoes. And my mother, was before typing and computers. She used to handwrite my CV on the back of my publicity pictures.
Oh, okay, there you go.
And there were other shows in between. There were commercials, there was legitimate theater. What I remember, and I think I was about 8, was an Actors Equity play by Sidney Kingsley, and I played the young son.
So there were a lot of auditions, most of which I don't remember. This was when I tried out for Life with Father, and I said I was too short, but I would hopefully grow. And I guess this next letter was that I didn't grow enough. She must have spent a lot of money on this,
Yeah.
which they didn't have. So this was a big investment.
It satisfied her need, and it was fine,
What was her need?
I guess her need was a kind of feeling that I had some talent.
Here comes the showboat. Here comes the showboat.
We had an audience of about 700,000, which for early television was pretty good, I imagine. You got to remember, this was early television, and all people had to watch were test patterns and Howdy Doody. So after you watch test patterns for a while, you would almost watch anything. And it was a lot of fun in the beginning.
And every week I was in the guide. It took years and years. Well, it was me or Howdy Doody. I mean, it wasn't a big choice.
No cable.
No cable. Didn't TiVo me or anything.
People looked at you in a different way, and it was hard to overcome. They had an image of, anybody on television is a snob. And I really wasn't. I was a shy kid, and I really had to work hard to do this because it wasn't my animal instinct to jump right in there and perform.
So you were also a kid going to school at this time?
I was also a kid going to school, and a young kid because I was ahead 2 years. So all the girls, when they were 16 and 17 and I was 14 and 15, it was hard, Having been on television, I think it made being accepted a little easier. And everybody knew I was a nice kid, so it worked out okay.
And these are like kids you're going to school with that were also the audience for the show?
Oh yeah, they used to come up to the show all the time. I'd get them tickets, and they'd go see the show, and it was fun for me. It was fun for them. And I still have a lot of those friends.
Did you make money off of this?
Very little. Nobody got paid on the children's hour. $35 that I made for some kind of promo. And this was, I made 40 of which they took $7.80. I ultimately had to join the union. I'm a member of AFTRA. I think my card number is 4.
Every once in a while, somebody says, "Didn't you used to be?" It happened here in this building last summer, where somebody from Brooklyn looked at me and said, "I know you." And I told him he had to get a better life. You don't appreciate what 700,000 people watching a show is like, you know? It's a number. But every once in a while it comes up and it pops up and somebody will recognize me. Or it's one of those, I know you from somewhere. And I'm always surprised when that happens. And pleasantly, it's a nice memory.
I was off to camp, which I loved because I met your mother there. And I went up there as a guest entertainer.
In the 1950s, my dad went to Camp Arcady in Lake George, New York, as a visiting entertainer from the Children's Hour. He liked it so much, he came back, first as a camper, then as a counselor. And that is where he met my mom. So it turns out, I have the Children's Hour to thank for me.
I was in college, and I realized that there were girls in the world. And this was kind of cutting into my time, because it took a lot of time. You get into your college days, and there's a million other things you want to do. And I just said to them one day, next week is my last show. And I never performed after that.
Never again?
Never again. And I was asked. But I'm a believer in once you close the door, you close the door.
You must remember this.
Then I had to figure out what to do in life. And I think I made the right choice. There was a time when I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I went to Stevens Institute to take a test to tell me what I was good at. So they said you were good at music, and you were good at writing, and you were good at law. So my friend and ultimate partner, Kenny Becker, said you could be a singing court reporter, and that'll touch all bases. It was absolutely fun, and when it stopped being fun, I was smart enough to figure out it's time to stop.
They still say I love you.
That was the patty cake patter of 5-year-old Kenny Best. That was our little...